Do you ever spend far more time on a project or task than you should? When you should have reduced scope, changed your approach, or abandoned it entirely? Do you realize after you've done a task that you didn't even need to do it? In today's video, I'm going to teach you a concept called checkpoints that can help you stop wasting your time. So imagine this. What if you could free up half or more of your time by eliminating the stuff that you don't actually need to do, or by being smarter with your approach to the things you do need to do? In today's video, I'm going to teach you this concept called checkpoints that will help you do that. But first, a little bit about me. I'm Trevor Lawbert, founder of Day Optimizer and author of the book Mindful Productivity. I'm here to teach you techniques, frameworks, and concepts that will help you be more productive while living a good life. So before I teach you the concept of checkpoints, I want to tell you a story that illustrates the concept of checkpoints and why you use them. So it's a hot summer day, and three friends decide that they're going to go to the lake to go swimming to cool off. The first friend decides to set off on the path to the lake, and they just wander and follow the main path, and it wanders to and fro, so they're wandering through this forest to get to the lake. Sometimes that path leads toward the lake, sometimes away from the lake. They wander slowly through that, and they do eventually make it to the lake. But it is several hours later. The second friend takes a compass and a map, and they head on along on that same path. But every so often, they check their compass and they look at where their map is, and they see, am I actually heading toward the lake, or am I just following the path? And so they reorient and they go, oh, there's a shortcut I can take to actually go toward the lake to get there faster. And so they constantly are reevaluating their approach, which path to take to get to the lake. So they get to the lake much faster. The third friend actually sets off a little bit later in the day, and they start heading toward the lake and wandering toward the lake. But then they pause for a second and check in, and they realize, well, the temperature's dropping. They no longer need to go to the lake to cool off. So they decide to actually find a nice little quiet stone in the forest to sit and just rest and contemplate for a while, and then head off and do some other activities. So they don't even need to go to the lake to do the swimming. So this story illustrates three different things that often happen to us. Often we are the first person who, once we've decided what to do, we just follow the default path toward that destination without checking in. The second person is a person that perhaps we should be like, where we take along our compass and map, and periodically we check in. We have these checkpoints where we say, am I heading in the direction I need to be heading? Should I continue along the default path? Or should I take an alternate path to get there? And finally, there's the third person who actually is checking in with themselves and saying, is this task that I've assigned for myself still even relevant? Can I free up my time by just not even going to the lake, not even trying to achieve this destination, because the destination itself is no longer relevant? So as I teach you the concept of checkpoints today, I want you to keep in mind this story. Because what we can do is we can use checkpoints to not be the first person, but be the second or third person. We can learn to use our time more wisely by checking in with our progress and where we're at, and with our own desires and whether the goal is still relevant. So how can we use our time more wisely, like the second and third person in our story? By using checkpoints. A checkpoint is a moment of awareness used to make the decision about whether we should continue along the default path, change our approach, or abandon the task entirely. Now, checkpoints have two components, a trigger and a decision. So the trigger should be something objective and recognizable, something to help pull you out of the doing mode so you can go into this evaluating mode. A common trigger is time, where I look at how much time has elapsed since I started the task, and after a certain period, I check in with myself and see whether I should continue or how I should alter my path. Or I could use an objective time. I can say at 11 o'clock at this specific time, I will then do a checkpoint. But you can use other checkpoints. You can use, for instance, progress checkpoints, number of words written, number of miles run, number of dollars earned. You can use event checkpoints, when an event starts, when something ends. People checkpoints. Once someone replies back to me, then I will check in and see is this relevant. Or once someone leaves, then I do a checkpoint. All these different checkpoints need to be specific though. You need to be able to quickly know, have I hit the checkpoint or not? So they can't be vague concepts of, oh, I'll do this when I get enough users. I have to say, once I hit 100 users, or once 50 minutes have passed. So be specific with your triggers so that way you can recognize them and immediately jump into your checkpoint. Once you do stop and do your checkpoint, you need to make a decision. Do I continue along the current path? Do I switch to a different path? Or do I eliminate the task entirely? Now it helps to have a default path for this. So your default decision is to continue. And that makes this checkpoint much faster. This is not a decision point where you have to make a major decision. You may have those as well, but this is more of a continue change decision, not a fork in the road decision, where you have to make a decision on which path to take. So think of this as a quick check-in. Has anything changed? If so, should I choose an alternate path, or should I abandon the task, right? Or have I not made the progress I expected to make by this point? So that triggers a quick reevaluation. But a checkpoint is this way to quickly bring that mindfulness and attention and pull you out of that doing mode so you can evaluate what the new priority, what your current priority is. So I just want to challenge one myth around checkpoints and around planning in general. Is this idea that by doing this, by taking the time to define your checkpoints up front, you're actually taking away time from doing the task. And that's a little misguided because we save so much more time from effectively using checkpoints than we lose during the time planning them. So as James Clear recently wrote, he wrote, more effort is wasted doing things that don't matter than is wasted in doing things inefficiently. Elimination is the highest form of optimization. Or, as I like to put it, is elimination trumps efficiency. So when you think about your checkpoints and taking the time to do them, realize that they are not an expense where you're spending time doing it. They are an investment in your time. By taking the time to define checkpoints up front and saying, okay, I'm going to check in with myself half an hour from now, another half an hour after that, and I'm going to make the decisions on how I'm going to alter my path. Or once I reach this number of users or this number of dollars, I'm going to then do a checkpoint to see if I should keep going along that path. The time doing that is an investment that will pay big dividends for your future time availability. One last thing. I didn't actually mention which time frame checkpoints work in, and they actually work in multiple scales. So you can use checkpoints within an individual task that you're working on throughout the day. So you can say, okay, I'm going to spend 2 hours on this research task, but I'm going to do a checkpoint every half an hour just to see, like, do I need to alter my approach? Do I need to have I reached my conclusion of my task? You can use it at the day or week level is, okay, once I've gotten X number of hours of work done, I'm going to then do a checkpoint and see, do I need to reevaluate how I'm going to do the rest of my week? Or you can do it on larger time frames where you're working on a project over several weeks or months and then have different checkpoints where you check in and say, okay, once we've reached this stage, then we're going to quickly check to see if we need to keep continuing or we need to adjust the path forward. Regardless of which time frame you use them, checkpoints are an invaluable tool for making sure that you stay aligned to the impact you want to create. and not to the original goal you set for yourself, which may no longer be relevant. So use checkpoints to help you use your time wisely by eliminating the things you don't need to do at all or taking smarter approaches to the things that you do need to do. In summary, a checkpoint is a moment of mindfulness used to make a decision on whether you're going to continue along your default path, take a different approach, or eliminate your task or project entirely to free up your time. Checkpoints have two parts: a trigger that determines when you do the checkpoint, and then that decision on whether you should continue your path, switch to a different path, or eliminate the current task or project. If you found the concept of checkpoints useful, please like and share this with your friends so that others can find out about this concept. If you have any questions or refinements to the technique, please leave them in the comments below, or just to tell me that you watched the video and you found it very useful. If you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the Mindful Productivity channel by clicking the subscribe button and then clicking the bell to make sure you receive all the videos. Thank you so much and have a productive day.